withdrawal, or what is called negative punishment again. Okay. This process, negative punishment, or what Miller calls contingent withdrawal, or what another well-known, respected behavior analyst calls penalty. So penalty, contingent withdrawal, negative punishment, they're all the same thing. I like the word penalty. It's less confusing for people. And it has more real-life applications if you watch any kind of sport on TV. Because athletes, if they behave badly on the field, they frequently get sent to the penalty box, don't they? They get taken out of the game. And what is removed is the reinforcer of playing the game. So penalty has some appeal. But when we talk about negative punishment in this context, we have this contingent withdrawal. We've got the contingent removal or withdrawal of a reinforcer that's going to cause a decrease in the frequency of responding. What we're going to talk a little bit about are two types. One type you're really familiar with, the other type you're not too familiar with. We'll take a peek here at just kind of a generic negative punishment contingency, a generic contingent withdrawal. So we got a kid who engages in threatening behavior. You could threaten a person verbally. I'm gonna kick your ass. Okay, that's a verbal threat. You can threaten a person if you stick a gun in their face, right? What's the implied threat there?
Gonna get shot.
Gonna get shot, absolutely. Unless you give me your milk money. Okay. You can threaten people with gestures. How would you do that? What a big fist in front of your face. That's a threat. Okay, so you can threaten people verbally and motorically. So we got this kid engages in threatening behavior. Immediately and contingent on the threatening behavior, we have the removal or withdrawal of 50 points. Before he engaged in the threatening behavior, he had all of his points. So if we talk about it as contingent withdrawal, we are withdrawing 50 points, 50 conditioned reinforcers. Penalty, we are removing those same reinforcers as a penalty. And if we look at this, the results of this is a real study. Baseline, traditional intervention had no effect on his threatening behavior, and then with the penalty contingency, that behavior just plummeted. So what we're talking about is the application of these basic principles in the treatment of adolescents in a residential program. Highly effective. Here's another example. I mentioned athletes. Okay, this looks like you're playing basketball or something. You fouled the guard, and now you're taken out of the game. That's a penalty. That's contingent withdrawal of the reinforcer. The reinforcer is playing the game. You have a big, beautiful yellow car. You run the light, and now the big, beautiful yellow car, part of it anyway, is removed. It's no longer big and beautiful and yellow. The beauty has been removed. And that's the reinforcer. When we're talking about contingent withdrawal, we are removing a reinforcer for the undesired behavior. contingent on the undesired behavior. We are removing a reinforcer contingent on the undesired behavior. But the reinforcer for that undesired behavior is different. The reinforcer for the undesired behavior is different than the one that we remove. Let's look at our threatening behavior. Okay? Let's just analyze the top contingency there and looking at Mark's behavior. He engages in the threatening behavior with Herb. As soon as he threatens Herb, there's contingent attention. Before he threatened Herb, there was little attention from Herb. So the threatening behavior is being reinforced by attention. Or if I threatened you and said, give me your milk money or I'll kick your ass, what do I have? I have two things. I have your attention, and I have a tangible reinforcer, your milk money. Now, the penalty or the contingent withdrawal, the negative punishment, contingent on the threatening behavior, we are going to remove a conditioned reinforcer, those 50 points. And that will cause that behavior to decrease in frequency. So going back to the major point here, the undesired behavior is being reinforced by something different than the reinforcer that we are removing. All right, juvenile corrections. I have a former student working in corrections doing applied behavior analysis. Okay, so we got a person, this guy is Mark, okay? He uses the word ain't. Now, what's the big deal? So what? Who cares if Mark uses the word ain't? Just let him use it. Who cares? Is that going to have any impact on his life, saying the word ain't? Try to get a job and you start saying the word ain't. What's going to happen? I'm going to guess that you ain't going to get the job. The first thing that a potential employer sees is your resume. The second thing that they see is your physical appearance, your dress, and how many tattoos you have on your forehead. The third thing they observe is how you speak. So ain't. Okay, so just simply correcting his grammar didn't help. Went from 55 occurrences to 70, almost 75 during the correction procedure. So now we're going to use contingent withdrawal. Every time Mark says ain't, we withdraw 20 points. Contingent withdrawal of a reinforcer. The behavior is going to decrease in frequency. And notice that in the before condition, he has all his points. So we are removing them, withdrawing them. And there's the data. Huge decrease in the frequency of saying ain't. And it is going to lead to better long-term outcomes affecting the quality of this guy's life.
So what's traditional?
Correcting it. Don't say ain't.
Okay.
That ain't a word. Tangible reinforcer, this is something that you hold in your hot, sweaty little hands. This is something that you have. Okay? A tangible reinforcer. You already possess it. Food, money, points, tokens, etc. It's in your hot, sweaty, dirty little hands. Okay? So we can, in a penalty or contingent withdrawal contingency, remove what you have. Okay? Believe it or not, kids of 4 years of age engage in some serious high-test aggressive behavior and tantruming. Have you ever seen that? Now, are these little children candidates for counseling? Think about it. A 4-year-old kid. Does that kid have the language and the verbal skills to talk about how they feel and what they think? No, of course not. So trying to do counseling with this little youngster is just pick a word.
Stupid.
I like that word, stupid. Yeah, that's just stupid. It ain't gonna work. You're wasting your time and that family's money. A better thing to do is teach the parents how to interact more effectively with that little kid. So we're moving into something that you have heard of and maybe even came in contact with. Time out. Time out from reinforcement. So we got a timeout contingency. This is the response contingent removal, and it's in green there, so that must mean it's important. That's a discriminative stimulus. Green letters. Access. We're going to remove access to a reinforcer, and it's going to cause that behavior to decrease in frequency. Time out, or time out from reinforcement. Okay, this is a real example. This was a study done, I think 1983, 1984, by a guy by the name of Charles F. Mace. He was at Children's Seashore Hospital in Philadelphia. And the family came in with this kid, engaged in disruptive yelling, screaming behavior, aggressive behavior, hitting mom, throwing things at mom. And they observed this kid in what's called a therapy room or a playroom with a one-way mirror, just like that one back there. Okay, you can observe and someone's been watching us for 14 weeks. Everybody turn around and wave. Hello. They observed this kid and his parent interact in this room. And in the room were games and toys and stuff. Okay? So what they observed was the kid with the basketball, and he'd have the ball, and he'd throw it not to mom, he would throw it directly at her head and bounce the ball off of mom's head. Very cool. Right?
Why would she let it get that far?
Okay, so
Why did she just smack it?
well, what have we learned so far about smacking?
That's,
How it's negative.
you use that as a last resort.
You use it as a last resort. That's exactly right. What else have we learned about smacking? Primary punishers, or punishment by the presentation of a stimulus. Pardon? They can habituate to it. Yeah, that's kind of the satiation. Habituation is not the correct word, but you are correct. They can become habituated, especially if that level of intensity remains the same. Right? What else have we learned about contingent presentation of an aversive stimulus called punishment?
Unwanted repercussions.
Yeah, generally speaking, they're called side effects, right? Emotional behavior, escape avoidance behavior, aggressive behavior.
You keep
Last
saying
thing,
Yeah, just harder.
Oh, you want to hit me?
you'd have to punish the behavior every time it occurred. in order to cause it to stay at 0. All right, so let's take a peek at what they did here. But before we get into this, let's talk about what the reinforcer for bouncing the ball off of mom's head is. Pardon?
He has the ball.
I've got the ball, and you're my mom. You ready? Anybody got a ball? We'll use Sawyer's coffee cup. Right? So I got a ball, and I bounce it right off your forehead. What's going to happen immediately?
She's gonna react.
I can't quite hear you.
She's gonna react. She's gonna.
Well, how? What?
She's gonna make some type of either gesture that it hurt or make a noise. That
If you ah! And she'll flail about, and then you'll probably engage in some other verbal behavior. Knock that shit off, right? And that's all happening contingent on my behavior of bouncing the ball off of mom's head. If those events are reinforcers, what am I going to do?
Continue to do it.
My bouncing the ball off of mom's head is going to increase in frequency.
If she doesn't catch on to that, she's
Yeah, but how do I not make a noise when he bounces it off my face?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's sort of that reaction.
Yeah.
My mom would throw the ball
Okay,
back in my
so and you made the comment there, well, if she doesn't catch on to that, well, clearly she hasn't caught on to that,
Right.
because that's why they're at Children's Seashore Hospital. Go up to the line from hell at Walmart.
Yeah, she's taking a multiple bounces.
You'll see the same thing. Same thing. So on the face of it, it's, well, it's obvious, but it's really not. These principles are powerful and subtle, and you have to be really systematic about changing them. Okay? So, here's our contingency that we just walked through. Contingent on bouncing the ball off of mom's head, he gets her attention, there's a physical movement, okay? It's automatically reinforced, is a more technical term. Now, we're going to use a penalty or contingent withdrawal of reinforcers. He bounces the ball off of mom's head, contingent on that, all of the reinforcers are removed. He has no access to the reinforcers in the room. All the toys, the games, the puzzles, the TV, etc. Access to those events and activities are removed. And that will decrease the frequency of responding, yes.
So we wouldn't just like take the basketball away? We would have
Take
to
them all
everything.
away. Everything away. All the reinforcers. He's losing access to all the reinforcers. Because let's say if we just took the ball away, but there's a toy car there, what would you predict would occur?
Ouch.
Ouch! You would be yelling ouch and more reinforcement for him throwing the car at you. So we're taking all the reinforcers away. But notice again, the reinforcers that we are removing access to are not the same as the one that's reinforcing the undesired behavior. This is time out. This is critical as we analyze and understand how to make it work in everyday life. Check that out. There's baseline. 60% of the time he was engaging disruptive, aggressive behavior. We do timeout, and it goes to almost 0. Plus, mom doesn't have to go to the hospital anymore. That's an added benefit. Oh, let's see here. This is what we want to look at. This is the contingency table, 2 by 2, to help you conceptualize, understand how these 4 basic principles of behavior work. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, which is next Tuesday. And then we've got negative punishment. So we'll flash this on a slide next week too. So when we present or follow a behavior with a reinforcing event, that's positive reinforcement. The frequency of responding will go up. When we remove a reinforcer, that's the contingent withdrawal of a reinforcer. That behavior will decrease. When we have the contingent presentation of an aversive stimulus, that's punishment by the presentation of a stimulus. Okay? In that last cell way over on the bottom right, that's what we're going to talk about on Tuesday and Thursday. Negative reinforcement. Why do we save it to the very end, even though it's called reinforcement? 2 reasons. 1, it's confusing. 2, it involves aversive stimulation. And that's what we've been talking about in this last section. Aversive control. Any questions? Okay? I'll let Sawyer take over. Yay! Listen to that excitement, Sawyer. Yay! Yes. The things you have to look forward to when you become a professor. Yay!
Oh. We were just like, why are we
I'm like,
talking?
dude.
It's like
3 hours.
When did I learn from this?
Hey, Sawyer,
What?
how long you stopped the video?
Oh my